swearing is white privilege. Also, apparently wearing secondhand clothes is also white privilege, but
What?
we're going to get into that. So this is a story which revolves around the University of Kent, which is a university I went to. So I thought we'd have a trip down memory lane and just enjoy a little bit of nostalgia because I want to, and try and stop me. So we're going to go through a few things first just to get the context of some of the nonsense that goes on at the University of Kent over the last few years. And there's a fair bit of it. It's not the worst university in the country, I hope, but there are some bad stuff. So first thing we go for is the University of Kent is the blame for this situation coming in. And you can see, first post here is a Instagram post. Now, this is an Instagram post from the Afro-Diasporic Legal Network. Describe themselves as a collective of black law students at the University of Kent. A bunch of black collectivists. Fantastic. I'm sure they have some perfectly reasonable things to say. So this is in response to the George Floyd killing in the US, and therefore, what? I don't know what that has to do with the University of Kent, but okay. So they give some demands. What do they demand? Number one, we demand that a short and long-term strategy be implemented that enhances political discourses and political education on both Canterbury and Medway campuses. So we need political education of the student body, even if they're taking, I don't know, science and not queer theory, but whatever. They say in here in this big long block of text, because that's how leftists write. First thing, students must adopt a critical lens, and then blah, 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 blah. In particular, many disciplines are void of black, queer, feminist, socio-political thought and theory. I'm not kidding. You can read that in the middle there. That's a complaint. That's a complaint that the engineering department doesn't have black, queer, feminist, socio-political thought in it.
Sounds like a positive to me.
I know, but I love how it reads literally like that Simpsons sketch. You know, when they go to a campus and it's a bunch of SJWs running the place. Literally, that's what their demand was. And we're going to end up getting it, apparently. So they also end up in this list of demands demanding segregated spaces, so where they can explore themselves or some crap, I can't remember. But I remember this at the time. And they also demanded, what was it, black-only mentors, because they're a bunch of critical race theorists. This is fundamentally where this all comes from. That's why they can have themselves a position that we're anti-racist. That's why I'm for segregation on the basis of race.
I can only be mentored by a black person.
Yes.
But I'm not racist.
So, I mean, it's a great example of just a student organization on campus demanding this kind of crap. And probably the worst one. I love that. Just many disciplines are void of black, queer, feminist, social-political thought. Yes, I did physics.
Lucky for them.
In weirdos. I mean, this is why the law department is kind of a joke, but whatever. So the Islamic Society also endorsed this. Or they have to do with them. God knows. Let's go to the next link, because, of course, the Afro Law Society is got nothing to do with black people. Never did. Let's hammer that down real quick. It's got to do with leftists. And this is an example. What happened to Free Palestine? What's that got to do with Afro law? Nada.
What's that got to do
Palestine,
with
part
us
of Africa?
either, really?
No, it's again, it's just leftists, another front for leftism. Let's not waste our time with anything else there. So we get the next link here. The other reason I'm particularly tied into this I find interesting, because Carl's tied into it as well. So Carl came to come give a speech at the University of Kent. He was invited, and you can see this headline here: controversial YouTuber Carl Benjamin, aka Sargon of Akkad, to speak at University of Kent, Canterbury, despite protests. Who are the protests? What protests? Can you guess?
Was it leftists?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Dishonest leftists. Big shock. I am very shook. So let's go to the next one.
They got really grainy photographs.
Yeah, why did I have to use that one? Let's go to the next link. So you can see here the Inquirer, which is the student newspaper. I think this is a web archive because they deleted the original, which is interesting. So as you can see, yeah, literal Antifa. A bunch of dishonest leftists were very butthurt that someone who isn't a dishonest leftist would be given a space to say something. That's it. Literally came to campus to give a talk. I think it was on like populism or something, and it ended up divulging into just arguing with them because they were the worst. So you can see from some of the quotes in here. So exclusive, let's bait people into being abusive. Antifa group chat exposed. Then anti-fascist, open brackets, Antifa. Facebook group chat, which included Kent Union officers, discussed intent to bait people into being abusive at Carl Benjamin's controversial talk at the university, while ignoring requests from the union to conduct security for student safety. They were told, look, if you're really so upset, just call student safety. They're like, nah, because they're not scared of anything. There's nothing going on there. And
well, they're trying to scare other people and intimidate them into not turning up, right?
Yes. So we have the quote in here from one of the group chats. The plan at the moment is to hand out leaflets with his most virulent anti-Semitic comments and try to bait people into being abusive. I wish I kept the piece of paper because we got a copy of them. The comments, they're tweets that were fake and made by the alt-right. That was the funniest part. It was like the fans of Richard Spencer had made them, and the Antifa are like, yes, this totally happened. It's like, why are you handing out alt-right propaganda? But they're two in the feather, let's say.
Horseshoe theory vindicated.
Every single time. So the group has been identified as UKC anti-fascists, organised in the Facebook group chat Kent Antifa Lads. The group chat was created in order to clean up Nazi graffiti that was found on campus the 9th of November, the anniversary of Kristallnacht. Convenient that. All of a sudden, there was a swastika on campus. It was drawn the wrong way, in case you're wondering. Because,
So they weren't an expert then, were they?
No.
Whoever graffitied this.
Whoever it could have been happened to have done it the wrong way, and then all of a sudden they needed an Antifa group on campus who were totally here to defend people and not just stir the crap. And the best part was I managed to meet someone who said they had access to had like seen the security footage or something. They were like, it was a bit diverse, the chap who did it. I mean, I couldn't confirm that, but I just big think. So members of the group included around 40 student activists, many of whom were committee members for the Feminist Society, Marxist Society, Labour Society, and an associate lecturer from the School of English. Oh, big
Imagine
shock.
my shock.
Imagine my shock. Literally every goddamn time. Ugh. 4 Kent union officers. The union officers, yeah, again, imagine my shock, including the vice president for welfare, Omalade something, who were also members of the secretive group. It's just amazing. But anyway, let's get into the story itself. So that's my setup for just like the, let's say, leftist activity on that campus. So let's go to the full story. So next link, please. Students at University of Kent must take white privilege course.
Oh, great.
Fantastic. It's all coming from America to us. So this is I'm pretty sure this was on, so you have like an online portal, which is Moodle. And I signed up to this when I was there, but it was just like one of the modules in the thing that I found. And I'm assuming it's now been made mandatory. So let's go through it. All students at the University of Kent must take a diversity course, which suggests that wearing second-hand clothes and using swear words can be examples of white privilege.
What? In what world? And surely buying new clothes is more privileged than getting second-hand ones. What are they like? All these white people are buying fancy vintage clothes that I can't get, or is that
it's
their
like Uber
take?
hipster or something, you know? Or it's like, nah, rich people get second-hand clothes. So
Yeah, we have to buy new. It's disgusting.
what on earth are you talking about? Anyways, the university has told every student, regardless of the subject they are studying, or if they are an undergraduate or postgraduate, to complete the 4-hour online course, which covers topics including white privilege, microaggressions, and preferred pronouns. Because of course it bloody does. But also, again, no matter the subject. If you're taking engineering, too bad. You can't be a non-political person. You must be part of the cult, or you're getting kicked out. Presumably because it's mandatory. I can't imagine what would happen if you didn't. They would probably call you in front of a hearing and then tell you that Islam is a race, which actually happened to one of my friends. So the Expect Respect course is described as outlining, quote, the true behaviours we expect of you whilst you are with us, while you're with us, as well as what you can expect of both the university and the student union, according to the university website. It includes a white privilege quiz, which participants are asked to select societal benefits allegedly enjoyed by white people in Britain from 13 options. According to the Daily Telegraph, a student who ticks all 13 correctly gets a gold star, because this is a primary school or something. Otherwise, a button appears telling them to try the quiz again. So you must correctly identify all 13 instances of white privilege. And one of them is apparently wearing second-hand clothes, so I mean, that's a bit of a curveball.
Yeah, that wouldn't be my go-to thing if I were guessing what they wanted.
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, you're wearing too much second-hand stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll continue on this. The
Lunatics.
module aims to dig deep into issues of racism, bias, sexual harassment, and consent. A challenge students to, quote, to think about your own behavior, the way you interact with others, and the impact this could have on someone else's experience, it adds. One example of white privilege featured in the quiz reads, quote, I can swear or dress in secondhand clothes without having people attribute these choices to the bad morals, to poverty, or the illiteracy of my race. What? What the hell are you talking about? Sorry. So I'm defined as white. Therefore, I can swear, wear secondhand clothes, and people won't say that that's me having bad morals or that I live in poverty or that I'm illiterate because I'm white. No. What world are you living in? There's a lot of people who don't appreciate my swearing Carl mostly, actually. So
Swearing is a sign of bad morals. That's very based.
again, see, you see the bigotry I have to put up with, but
Yes.
it's just so like pathetic. Well, a black person can't swear. If someone says stop swearing, that's oppression. That's the world they live in. But again, the reason I set it up with all that extra crap there and the fact that they're making it mandatory goes back to the Afro diaspora Instagram post in which like, yes, there's not enough black queer feminist theory. Now there is. You happy, lads? This is what they asked for, and the university just buckled, apparently. So one example of white privilege. Oh, I've read that one. Another example includes, I can go shopping without being followed or harassed. As someone who keeps going to the Tesco's around the corner and quite often
Yeah,
gets
that's not true, yeah.
followed by the black security guard because I've got a huge rucksack and I'm walking around buying stuff. Fair enough, but no, apparently I'm being racially oppressed by that black security guard.
Also, when I used to go to work in a suit, walking down the street, quite often, 3 times in about 10, 15 minutes, people would come up to me asking for money. I mean, I don't
Sorry,
think...
you're being racially oppressed by the homeless. Is that?
Yes. The homeless are racist, didn't you know?
Makes as much sense as this. So, and I can do well in challenging situation without being called a credit to my race. Sorry.
Does anyone ever say that to
Sorry,
anyone?
whoever talks like this? I can do well in a challenging situation without being called a credit to my race. Again, not true. I mean, we've just seen the Late Party conference. I mean, you're a good white man. You didn't put your hand up. You can add that there. In an internal email, the university's lecturers were told, quote, we expect all students, regardless of program, level, or site of study, to complete the module. However, some members of staff have resisted. Good lads. There are a couple
Good
of
for you.
good lads on campus. I think, what is his name? I'm forgetting his name now. There's an academic at the University of Kent who does politics, who I'm sure the chat will remember. Maybe you could read the chat and remind me, because I imagine people will be putting it in.
I don't have it open, unfortunately.
Dang, but he's great, so there'll be him. Godwinson or something like that? Sorry. So next quote, I'm not going to tell students to do this module. Ella Lee, a professor of family and parenting research at the university said. She said, quote, quite a lot of her colleagues felt the same way. Good, and resist this nonsense. I mean, literally, it's the black queer feminist theory that the lunatics who wanted segregation were calling for. So, quote, encouraging people in the academy to narrow their field of reading and narrow students' reading seems to me to be a bit philistine and irresponsible. No S. Students are being instructed through this module that there is a correct way of thinking. The party's way of thinking. Professor Frank Frudy, a sociologist at Kent and author of 100 Years of Identity Crisis, also criticized the course as thought policing, adding, quote, there's a real danger of promoting conformism on campus under the guise of education that you indoctrinate people into woke dogma. 100% correct.
It's great to see that lots of professors are actually coming out, putting their name to comments like, this is bad.
Yeah.
Because it kind of frustrates me a little bit when particularly Americans, I think their university's certainly more far gone than ours, but they say, oh, just don't go to university. You know, it's all taken over, when my experience is I didn't come across any wokeness unless I actually sought it out.
But also they're incredibly weak. I mean, I imagine like 5-10 years ago that the red terror of an environment that wokeism could bring to bear was far worse. But I remember on university and whatnot, it kind of is a joke at this point because it's so absurd. Like
I remember talking to some of my lecturers when it first started coming about, and they were just kind of laughing about it. You just kind of ignore them.
But even publicly, I mean, when your opposition is like, race segregation, you don't have to take them seriously. And I'm very glad that a lot of lecturers at the university are getting that position as well. So last quote here, a spokesman for the university said that the module was, quote, supporting everyone. Who believes that? Sorry, you're literally lecturing the white kids that they're bad for having secondhand clothes, but whatever. So supports everyone to ensure all members of our community are treated with dignity and respect, except the white ones, the men, maybe straight. I don't know how deep the course goes into intersectional theory, but there's always some enemy class, isn't there? And that's how they define them. So I thought we'd go for the next link here, which is the Free Speech Union, who are supporting this. Good boys, Free Speech Union. Very good support. I would recommend joining, especially if you're on university and being oppressed by these lunatics. So this isn't education, it's indoctrination. 100% correct. And I thought we'd enjoy a nice little quote from a friend of mine who, I'm not going to mention his name, but he sent me a message about this, and then he sent me a little bit of extra information because he was quite in depth with the union at the university and is now pretty peed off. So let's go to the next link here so you can see. I've got sources from inside the last union that proves that jobs were internally allocated by race, like organizing Black History Month, beyond remit by the diversity head, the woman who said Islam is a race, something I mentioned earlier, and that non-white elected officers were formally reprimanded for not wanting to do them. May take to print. I hope he does. And if he doesn't, I'm happy to talk about it because it's really funny. I just can't get over. They're just like, yeah, brown people, you're bad for not wanting to do Black History Month. And I'm just like, leave me alone, weirdo. That's the state of the University of Kent and why swearing is now white privilege or wearing secondhand clothes.
They still didn't explain that either.
No, I mean, they did the swearing one. They were like, yeah, you can swear without being considered a racial inferior. I don't really understand their argument.
It's like
so insane.
A moral degenerate. That wasn't what they said, but something along those lines.
Is wearing secondhand clothes degenerate?
I don't know. Probably not, but...
I mean, if they fit, who cares? But whatever. Yeah, that's that. If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast, The Lotus Eaters, you can catch the full podcast at 1 p.m. every weekday UK time at lotuseaters.com. You can also sign up at lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site.
Yeah, that's how we keep this whole operation running. And recently we've put up loads of great stuff, such as this interview with legendary comedian Steve Hughes, one of my personal favourite comedians, so it was a real honour to be able to meet him. But one thing that I didn't expect, that he would be such a deep thinker, and this podcast is genuinely like a meeting of minds in a way. He was right on my wavelength on a bunch of things and helped me actually connect a bunch of dots, but I'm not going to carry on and spoil it. We also, of course, have lots of interesting articles that have been written, such as this one by Josh about the dumbest country on earth. And for for silver tier subscribers, we also include a link, so it's we have an audio reading of it from a chap called Jonathan, who has a very smooth voice that you will enjoy. And this is great because often I don't have time to read all of the articles that we put up, because we've put up a lot of regular content. And so this saves me the hassle of having to read it myself. So I really actually am very appreciative of this feature on a personal level. But we also do the Contemplations and Epochs, which are just interesting podcasts about interesting things. These are regular weekly podcasts. So this one is one of our writers, Josh, he's got a master's degree in psychology, talking about theories of intelligence and how they matter. And of course, we've got the Epochs, where myself and Bo, or in this case it was Josh and Bo, talking about the life of Sir Francis Drake. So that's 2 solid hours talking about England's most notorious adventurer. But we've also got lots and lots of other ones. This is number 21, so there's a good back catalogue there. And finally, we have our book clubs, and this is the part that I'm most proud of. Recently, we've done Shooting an Elephant by George Orwell, and
Reflections on a Ravaged Century by Robert Conquest.
Yeah, Robert Conquest is fantastic. Just if you want Western chauvinist historian, he's your man.
Anti-socialism.
Yes, in all forms, it's fantastic. And like I said, that's what keeps the podcast running. So if you want to become a member, thank you very much, and we think there's some great stuff you'll enjoy.